Hello viewers, welcome to my YouTube channel Prakash Kulkarni's Lectures. In this series of videos, we will be covering Karnataka State Syllabus, Second Language English Grammar for 10th Standard students. These videos will be examination oriented. In this episode, we will look at the summary of all poems from the textbook. Now you are going to study about the summary of the poems. Let's come to the first one. Grandma Climbs a Tree. This poem is written by Ruskin Bond. Let's have a brief life sketch of Ruskin Bond. Born in Kasauli in 1934, Ruskin Bond now lives in Missouri. He wrote his first novel, The Room on the Roof, when he was 17. He has written more than 30 books for children. Grandma Climbs a Tree shows Bond's great ability to enjoy unusual events and actions. In his autobiography, Scenes from a Writer's Life, Bond talks about his Calcutta granny as a strange person who sat alone in the evenings playing patience, which is a game of cards. Now let's go to the summary of the poem Grandma Climbs a Tree by Ruskin Bond. He calls his grandmother as a genius because she could climb a tree. Even at the age of 62, she was passionate to climb a tree, which she learnt it from her loving brother at the age of 6. Everybody feared that Granny would fall from a tree one day. One day, she climbed a tree but could not come down. After the rescue, the doctor recommended her rest for a week. But for Granny, it was like brief season in hell. She demanded a house to be built in a tree. The poet's father, who was dutiful, fulfilled her wish so that Granny moved up and enjoyed happily in the tree. Now, this is a brief summary of Grandma Climbs a Tree. So, you are asked to write summary of the poem in the examination. Now, let's go to the second poem, that is Quality of Mercy by William Shakespeare. A brief sketch of William Shakespeare. William Shakespeare was born on April 23rd, 1564 in Stratford-on-Avon. He was regarded as the foremost dramatist of his time. His sonnets were composed between 1593 and 1601. Shakespeare invented thousands of words, for example, birthplace, courtship, blood-sucking, dewdrop, etc. Shakespeare wrote more than 30 plays. These are usually divided into 4 categories: history, example Henry IV; comedies, the Comedy of Errors is the example; tragedies, example Julius Caesar, Hamlet, Othello, King Lear, etc. and romances. Example for romances is Cymbeline, A Winter's Tale and The Tempest. Now let's go to the summary of the Quality of Mercy. The poem Quality of Mercy is written for the play The Merchant of Venice. Portia is one character. Portia, one of the main characters in the play, argues why mercy is the greatest virtue of all. According to Portia, the quality of mercy is not strained and it is as gentle as rain to the earth. It is divine and blessed twice, both by the giver and by the taker. It is the mightiest of all the human virtues. Portia argues that the king is more important than his crown. She says, scepter shows only force of temporal power, which is only a result of awe and royal power. It is full of dread and fear of kings. But the quality of mercy is above that scepter power. The quality of mercy should be enthroned in the heart of kings as it is an attribute of God. When the quality of mercy tempers justice, then the earthly power looks like divine power. So, this is a brief summary of quality of mercy. Now, let's go to the next poem, third one. I Am the Land, written by Marina de Belizent. A brief sketch about her. Marina was born near Milan, Italy in 1949. She has a degree in poetry and recording media from Mills College and an MFA in visual arts. MFA means Master of Fine Arts. MFA in visual arts from the University of California at San Diego. She was a founder of the feminist publishing house Kelsey Street Press of Berkeley in 1997. Her poetry has appeared in anthologies and magazines in Canada, Italy, Britain, Australia, and the USA. Now, let's go to the summary of the poem I Am the Land by Marina de Belizent. In this poem, the earth speaks to the people. It is in the dialogue form. The people buy the land and say they own it. They shout, but the earth lies patiently. The earth imagines itself with muddy holes and cars parked with lights on as it is tearing eyes. The happiest thing that the earth feels is that the farmers plowing the earth plant trees, grow fruits, flowers, children play, and birds sing. The earth shares its unhappy feelings that the soldiers fight against other country soldiers. They put fence between the nations, but they do not know they are choking the earth with the smoke from the wars. The fence looks like a link necklace, chain link necklace that chokes the earth. Now, please note this sentence. The fence looks like a chain link necklace that chokes the earth. It is a figure of speech, it is a simile. And finally, the earth asserts that men can put fence between the countries but not around the planet. With this poem conveys universal brotherhood is most important in our lives. Now let's go to the fourth poem, The Song of India by Vinayak Krishna Gokak, V.K. Gokak. Vinayak Krishna Gokak was born at Savnur in Dharwad district. He was educated at Carnatic College and then at Oxford. He is a widely travelled man and he held several important educational posts. He received the Padma Shri Award, Sahitya Academy Award, and Jnanapita Award. As a poet, he was one of the leading figures of Navya Kavya. It is called New Poetry, Navya Kavya movement of the 1950s in Kannada poetry. In this poem, the poet proclaims that the time has come to establish the new ideals. Now, let us see the summary of the poem The Song of India by V.K. Gokak. It is in the form of a dialogue between the poet and our motherland, India. The poet asks Mother India what aspect of his country he should glorify through a song. He wonders if she should sing about the snow-clad Himalayas at the north or the three water bodies at the south. Three water bodies means the Arabian Sea, the Bay of Bengal and the Indian Ocean. Three water bodies at the south. Alternately, he ponders on singing about the country's historical temples, the Indian soldiers who died fighting for the nation, the country's religious saints, and its technologies. Mother India requests the poet to sing about the lepers and beggars on her street, the helpless children, and other things or people of less importance. Through the poem, V.K. Gokak tries to convey us that we must be proud of our tradition, culture, heroes, and industrial progress. However, we must not forget the problems such as poverty and unemployment, class and caste conflicts, illiteracy, and ignorance faced by our country. We must strive to eradicate these problems from our motherland. This is the main theme of the Song of India. Coming to the fifth poem, Jazz Poem 2, written by Carl Wendell Heinz Jr. You can see the photograph of Heinz. He was born in North Carolina. He graduated from Tennessee Agricultural Industrial University in 1962. His verses have been hoisted as some of the best contemporary writers. Now, let us study the summary of the poem Jazz Poem 2, written by C.W. Heinz Jr. An old jazz musician is standing like a black ancient mariner. His old face is wrinkled and weary. His faded blue shirt has turned dark with sweat. His stomach is hanging loosely. His jacket is worn out and his necktie is undone and dropping loosely over the jacket. His shoes are torn and are stuffed with paper to cover the holes. His rough, unshaven face shows pain. He stands alone, head down, eyes closed, and ears perked. An old saxophone hangs across his chest, supported from his knees, from his neck by a wire coat hanger. He gently lifts the saxophone to the parted lips. But once he starts playing music, he is no longer a black man, but a bird which gathers his wings and flies high and higher. He seems to be spreading the message of God through his music. Now, this is a brief summary of the poem. Try to understand the description of judge. Coming to the next one, that is sixth poem, Ballad of the Tempest by James T. Fields. A brief sketch about him, a biography. James T. Fields was born in Portsmouth, New Hampshire on December 31st, 1817, and named James Field. The family later added the S, that is Fields. His father was a sea captain and died before Fields was 3. At the age of 14, Fields took a job in Boston as an apprentice to publishers Carter and Handy. His first published poetry was included in the Portsmouth Journal in 1837. On September 13, 1838, he delivered his anniversary poem to the Boston Mercantile Library Association. A number of his works are collected in his book Ballads and Verses, published in 1880. This volume contains the poem Ballad of the Tempest. Now, in this poem, you can see Ballad of the Tempest by James T. Fields. He gives the description of the day when some sailors were in the sea. It was dark. It was a stormy night in winter. A ship was out at sea. Huge waves dashed against the ship. The roar of the sea filled the sailors with fear. They crowded together in one cabin. Even the bravest among them could not sleep. They just sat in the darkness and prayed. As the storm continued, the captain too gave up hope and said that nothing could save them. At that point, the captain's little daughter held his hand and quietly asked if God protected them on sea. Her faith in God filled the sailors with a new hope. By morning, the storm cleared and they reached harbor safely. So that means we must have mercy of God for our deeds. Now we are coming to the seventh poem, The Blind Boy by Colley Cibber. You can see the picture of him. The poet Colley Cibber was born on 6 November 1671 in London. He was an English actor, manager, playwright and poet laureate. His colorful memoir Apology for the Life of Colley Cibber describes his life in a personal, anecdotal and even rambling style. He died on 11th December 1757 in London. Now we are going to study the summary of the poem The Blind Boy by Colley Cibber, which is most heart-touching. It is a very emotional narrative by a blind boy. It is narrated by the poet himself. Since the boy is blind from his birth, he is not able to experience visually about everything in his life. It is very pitiable and touching to see his plight, to understand the things as others can see. He is asking others to make him understand about light which he can never see. Similarly, he can only feel the heat of the sun but never see how bright it is shining, as mentioned by others often. To him, both day and night are the same, since everything is dark for him and he cannot distinguish between day and night and does not have fixed timings to play or to sleep. He also asks others not to show over sympathy upon his blindness and the fact he can never see in his life throughout. He is happy and content with a life he is living like a king in his own world, although in reality he is a poor blind boy. Now we go to the next poem, Off to Outer Space. It is written by Norman Nicholson. You can see the picture here. Astronaut is there, and under that astronaut picture, the poet Norman Nicholson's photograph is there. Norman Nicholson was an English poet. He was born in Milorn, Cumbria in 1914 and lived there for the rest of his life. His poetry is noted for local concerns, straightforward language, and the elements of common speech. He was awarded the Queen's Gold Medal for Poetry in 1977 and Coromandel Award. He died in 1987. His collected poems appeared in 1994. Although known chiefly for poetry, Nicholson wrote much in other forms. They are novels, plays, essays, topography, and criticism. Now let us study the summary of the poem Off to Outer Space Tomorrow Morning by Norman Nicholson. Now please see the regular diary of an astronaut who is in the outer space. It is not like our regular diary. Now see, the poet is going to outer space the next morning. He is doubtful of his return, so he asks his friends to have a last look at him. After the countdown, he requests his friends to strike his name from the telephone book. There, there, there won't be any difference of day and night in space. So, calendars and clocks are useless there. There will not be any change of seasons. The poet would sleep when he feels sleepy. The poet won't be writing any letter. There is none to visit in space. It will be like an imprisonment for him. In space, there is no gravitational pull. Teacups will circle around him like planets around the sun. The people on Earth can watch him through telescope and cameras. But he doesn't have time to think about us. When the rockets move across galaxies by the power of propeller, everyone on the earth would be angered as they didn't get a chance. Now, with this, we have completed all the summaries. Now, thank you for watching. Please like and share the video. Subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon to get updates on new videos. Thank you once again.